everyone. We just want to give a bit of a trigger warning for episode 5. We talk a lot about mental health and things that go into that, like suicide, sexual assault, all of that. So if you have issues with that, please don't listen to this episode or please skip through those. It's throughout the entire episode. So we just want you to be safe and keep your mental health first.
Yes. Us talking about our mental health is for a coping mechanism, but also if us talking about our mental health impacts your mental health, don't listen.
Exactly. Because
we love you.
We love you and we want you to be safe and keep your mental health.
Yes. Your mental health is so important to us.
Yes.
Yes. We love you. Illy.
Illy.
Welcome back to your secret safe with A. I had a friend that was like, your secret safe with a?
With a
what? I was like, with A, the letter A. Update before we start episode 5. Is this episode 5?
Yeah, episode
5. We have been doing this since January. It is now March. 2 episodes a month.
Happy first day of March.
Anyways, life update. On the last episode, I talked about how I was exclusive with a guy, and I was like, oh no, but he's not my boyfriend. Literally the next day, he became my boyfriend, and
I fucking called that shit. I said, you know he's gonna come down this weekend for the wedding, and he's gonna fucking ask you to be his girlfriend, and I was correct.
Yeah, it went from, will you be my girlfriend? And then the next night, we were, after the wedding and a day of just like loving each other and staring into each other's eyes, like dancing on the dance floor, we went home to go walk my dogs. And we have this thing we say, because we're a little delusional, like if we're talking about something too far in the future, we say put it in the parking lot. So we were in the parking lot and he was like, I need to tell you I love you. And I was like, I love you too.
And then you fucking weirdos FaceTimed me Sunday morning, naked in bed, and I was like, hey, what's going on? And you were like, we're in love. And you guys are like deeply staring into each other's eyes. And I was like, well, I'm uncomfortable, so I'm gonna go.
No, it's that like intoxicating, addicting love. Mm-hmm. And it's so amazing. And I'm so happy. So I'm officially a girlfriend.
I was with Mr. W this week, and I've been like getting mad at him because I'm like, we haven't made like any plans. I'm a planner, you're a planner, we love our plans.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, I need you to be better about this. And he was like, okay. So Thursday morning we were sitting down at brunch and he was like, pull out the shared calendar, let's make some plans. I said, okay. So
he will never be Mr. Spreadsheet. We are planned out. We are booked out through September.
So that's what I was about to say. We planned everything until September, and Labor Day weekend, I am moving in with him. Surprise!
I'm gonna cry. You're gonna be even farther away.
I know. I'm sorry, but we talked about it because I still have to meet his kids. So for the month of May, I'm gonna stay there and like hang out with them, and then for June we'll come back for my sister's wedding, and then July I'll go up and stay with them, and then we're all going on vacation with my family.
This is a wild idea. All 11 of you guys?
Not all 11, but like a lot of us are going. We're going up to the country up there, mm-hmm. and renting like a giant house, and like he'll have met everyone by then because we'll have already had my sister's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of August, I'm going to stay with them up there. And then I'll come back the Labor Day weekend. And then, like, he's going to fly down and we'll pack up a U-Haul. And then I will move up there with them.
I'm so happy for you. So happy, so supportive. Selfishly sad.
I know.
But, you know, we always make the long distance friendship work. We've done it for years.
Since you've moved to DC which was
Yeah.
2015.
Yeah. So
Oh my
we've
God.
done it for 10 years.
10 years.
Oh my gosh. We're like, we can do long distance. We've been doing this for 10 years.
Literally. I always love those TikToks and memes talking about like girls and like their long distance like best friend, and I'm always like me
I know,
too.
it's like everyone talks about long distance relationships, but they don't talk about the long distance best friend.
That just sucks. Especially when like Adrian moved to fucking Colorado. I was like, bitch.
Yeah. R.I.P.
She had to go do her free bird stuff.
She was free. Colorado was 100% her.
Oh, absolutely. She thrived there. She loved it.
She thrived. Today we're talking about
mental health
yeah,
and everything in between.
We ended last week's episode talking about being a little over-sexualized, threesomes, a little bit of me doing crazy sexual things just to feel something, and it kind of comes from a place of having poor mental health. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Medicated girlies unite.
Hell yeah, my Zoloft girlies.
Zoloft girlies out there, we see you, we hear you. Yeah, because if we didn't laugh, we would probably cry. So Grace and I make light of our mental health. We make light of Adrian's death. Like, there's literally photos of us. Grace, you're going to have to add a photo of us here where we're sitting next to Adrian's grave and she's in the middle, of course, because badge. And it's the three of us in order. So even though she's not with us, we still take pictures with her. And it's a little comical. Some people, like, everyone handles grief in different ways. For me and Grace, making light of it, even if people think it's a little dark or a little crude, it helps us. And we do the same thing with our mental health. It's not because we don't think it's serious. Mental health concerns are a very real deal, but talking about it, laughing about it, being relatable to someone that has mental health issues has really helped me improve my own.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I always say like my dark humor and laughing through the pain is like what gets me through the day. Because if you can't laugh or have like, not fun's like the wrong word, but if you can't just like make light of it, you're just gonna drown, I feel like. And a lot of people probably think it's crude and crass and like not honoring the dead, but if you knew Adrian, that's exactly how she would want it to
This
be.
is 1,000% how she would want it to be, because she was our free-spirited best friend, and I know she's like, I mean, I don't believe in heaven or hell. That's not really a thing. But I believe that she is out there somewhere living her best life. And maybe she's listening to the podcast and she's, first off, like, fuck you bitches for posting all these embarrassing photos of me. And second off, she's missing us dearly.
Oh, absolutely. Every time I think about, or when I look at the jumping picture we posted of her from episode 3, I just laugh so hard because she hated that photo so fucking much. And I'm like, this is my little like dig for you for dying on us.
Yeah, literally. We're like, fuck you. You died. So we're going to post whatever we want. Literally, fuck her for dying.
I love you, but fuck you.
I love you, but fuck you so much. But because of her death, this is where Grace and I are today. I wasn't on medication, actually, until after Adrian died.
Same.
But the majority of my mental health, like, while yes, there were things that came from the grief and things I had to work through in therapy.
I mean, sometimes I, like, think about, like, where we were mentally back in 2020, and it just, like, is mind-boggling to me how, like, fucked in the head we were, because we couldn't see straight through our grief. Like, we only had each other, kind of, basically, because we were like, it's hard for anyone else to understand. I feel like there's a stigma around, like, death and grief of it being like, okay, it's been 3 months, like, it's time for you to get over it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm never gonna get over my best friend dying. And
anyone who's lost someone close to them and understands grief, whether it's a family member, a friend, everyone grieves in their own way. Everyone needs to take their own time. I know for me, I was very, very angry
Mm-hmm.
When it first happened, like I've never felt as much anger as I did when she died, and I had to, remove her boyfriend from social media. I couldn't look at it. That's something that therapy taught to me, because I just was like poisoning myself, reading
Mm-hmm.
about ATV accidents, seeing what was going on in his life. And in hindsight, now that I'm out of that anger phase, I know it was really hard for him too, probably the
Yeah.
hardest for anybody. And
Because he was grieving in the way that he knew how to. And
right.
sometimes I wish like we still talk to him, because I definitely feel like him and us, I felt like we took our anger and our grief kind of out on each other.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, but I wish we had it. I mean, hindsight's 2020, and we were.
Hindsight is 2020. It's been, I mean, that was 2019. It's been
Mhm.
5 years. We grow up, we move on. We don't always get over it, but we joke about it.
Yeah.
Or we get medicated.
I heard something. It was this girl. She's written books and like she has a podcast and stuff about like grief, because her first husband had like a disease and he passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and then her like dad like passed away in a tragic accident, and like she just had like a really hard life. But she always says like people tell you to move on, but you're never going to move on, but you are going to move forward. And
Yeah.
I always like that. Like, I'm not going to move on, but I will move forward with my life, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to forget her, clearly.
Never, never. We will never forget her. But let's talk about mental health and medication. If you've ever been on an SSRI, let me know how your orgasms are.
Literally, speaking of. Okay, so I was with Mr. W this past week, and speaking of medications and not being able to orgasm, I don't know what the fuck was wrong with my body this week.
You put an orgasm
No,
after all of this?
I still orgasmed and everything, but like she was being like extra difficult, and he was like, "That's it, your vagina just fucking hates me." I was like, "No, she doesn't." I was like, "I don't know what's wrong with her," and then I was like,
You're
"That's
like,
it."
Priscilla, get it together.
No, literally, I was like talking to her in the bathroom. I was like, "What is going on with you?" And then I was like, "You know what? I'm about to just go off my medication. Fuck it, I'm just gonna be crazy for a while so I can have a good orgasm."
I literally had that conversation with my mom because I tried a couple different medications, and ultimately I ended on Zoloft. Tried Lexapro, Prozac, whatever else. Zoloft, which is sertraline.
Sertraline.
Sertraline is like
Yeah.
the generic name for it. When I first got on it, I was only on 50 milligrams, and I was having the hardest time orgasming. It didn't matter if it was a guy, my vibrator. It's like I could get there, but
Yes.
never finish. It is the most frustrating feeling, but not even like the good edging feeling. It's just like, whew, ghost away.
No, literally, like I was edging myself all week, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking lose my shit.
No, and I literally said to my mom, I was like, would I rather kill myself or would I rather have an orgasm? It's a very hefty debate. It's a very real debate.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I will say though, when I used to be on Prozac,
Mm-hmm.
my libido was, and I was only on like 25 milligrams of Prozac, like my
Mm-hmm.
libido was like significantly lower versus now that I'm on 50 milligrams of Zoloft, because
Mm-hmm.
you have to find a medication that works for you.
Right.
Everyone's different. And I remember when I was weaning myself off of Prozac, my boyfriend at the time, I like just did not want to have sex with him because I already knew I was going to break up with him, but he didn't know that. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I think it's just like me weaning off my like Prozac, like my body just feels weird because of it,
Yeah.
whatever." And he was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, definitely." And in my head I said, "Motherfucker, I'm breaking up with you."
Yeah, you're like, I'm gonna go home and masturbate for an hour. I just don't want your dick.
Yeah, I just don't want you to touch me.
Yeah. So we're talking about medication. Both Grace and I are on Zoloft. She's only on 50 milligrams. I'm extra crazy and I take 150 milligrams of Zoloft. And what it does for me is it levels me out.
Mm-hmm.
It helps my anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
In 2024, especially after what happened, which we will never talk about, something happened and I was having panic attacks. I had had panic attacks in the past. They never lasted this long. They never were this intense. And where I drew the line is I had a panic attack in the bathroom at work one day, and if anyone knows me, you know I live and breathe for my job. I absolutely love to work. And doesn't matter what's going on in my life, I'm always going to give work 110%. And when I had that panic attack in the office, that's when I knew I had to make a change.
Yeah.
Because it was affecting me at work. You usually start at 50 milligrams. You work your way up.
No, bitch, they start you at 25.
I think I started at 50.
I mean, if you're having panic attacks, probably, because they were like, oh, you're
not well. But yeah, 150 milligrams of Zoloft. I have 50 milligram hydroxyzines that I can take as needed for panic attacks.
I love hydroxyzine. That is my shit.
It used to do so much to me. Like, now it's like, no. And then I have 100 milligrams of trazodone I take to go to sleep.
Oh my God. I'll take hydroxyzine when I need to sleep if my brain and my anxiety is like going too much. Yeah. And then I also have really bad flight anxiety, so I usually have to take like 50 milligrams per flight just to keep myself calm from not thinking that we are going to die.
We shouldn't talk about this. It's a very real topic in today's society.
Mr. W recently was like, oh, because we were planning our March trip, and he was like, maybe we should go somewhere where you can drive so you don't have to fly. I said, this is why I love you.
Aww.
He knew.
Yeah. So I'm very medicated, and it's not that I don't have anxiety now. I still do. It helps me recover more quickly. It helps me not spiral, not take things so seriously. I had the debilitating kind of anxiety. Now you ask me to do something for my job, I'm going to do it and I'm going to crush it. And it's very weird that I can advocate for my job and things I have to do at work, but it's very hard for me to advocate for myself or to do something that I need to do for myself. But I don't know what to say.
I was going to say, I feel like we're the opposite in that way, because like, at work, I feel like it's very hard for me to advocate for myself. But like when we're like out in public or like we need to order something, I'm like, whatever, I got it. Like I can do that. Oh, the order's wrong, send it back. Like in our relationship, like I'm very much like, oh, they did not order that. They actually asked for no cheese. Like, can you fix this? Like in a nice way, of course. I'm not an asshole to.
Don't be an asshole to waitresses.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. I will never, ever, ever be with someone who is a bad tipper or someone who is rude to waitresses.
Or service industry people in general.
Correct.
They have to deal with enough for their mental health. I am not going to fucking be an asshole to them.
No.
Sometimes I act like, I'm so sorry that I decided to come to your place of work and bother you while you're working so I can get lunch or something, you know?
Yeah, I'm literally like the most anxious person. Not anymore. I feel really good now. A lot of my anxiety came from lying and not being my true self, which you should never feel that way in a relationship. It's so lonely. It's so lonely where you can't tell the person you love what's going on with you, or they don't understand mental health or don't think it's a real thing. And that's hard. It's very, very hard to go through that. I mean, you saw me at my lowest, which I think was probably 2022.
Oh, yeah. I think that's when we sat down for sushi and you like blurted everything out. And I was like, girl, what?
Yeah. That weekend, I remember it because I had moved out for a little while. We had tried like a separation. I moved back in. I told you what happened. And I think we went out with a bunch of our high school friends. It was at City Beach.
Yeah, because I was in Richmond that weekend.
Yeah. And he didn't come out with us because we were still very rocky, fighting, whatever. He was like, I don't want to drink. You and I got blackout. I remember crying at the bar. Shocker. I was like bawling at the bar because...
Yes, and you called him and he came and got you.
Like, I called him, he came and got me, and as soon as we got into the house, it was a huge fight. He went to bed, I laid on the couch, and that night I took 40 Benadryl.
Yes, I remember
on top of alcohol and whatever else. that was a very dark place in my life because I was so unhappy that I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. Newsflash to all, 40 Benadryl will not kill you. It will not kill you. It will cause you to throw up. I threw up everywhere. Was in the shower throwing up for multiple hours, and then I was having crazy hallucinogenic like ins and outs. I remember Grace came over the next day and I was like fading in and out of consciousness. So that's a scary part. And that was a real low for me where I really knew I needed to make a change. And we talk about cheating on this podcast, and a lot of my mental health came from cheating because I felt so guilty. It's not something I enjoy doing. It's just something that happened. You find your outs, you find what makes you feel good. And I was chasing this high of sex. This makes me feel so good. I feel so wanted, without really realizing the damage it was doing to me. And then once I hit that low, that was scary.
Yes, it was.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I did that to you. Like, it's such a selfish thing to do. But I was just so unhappy. And after that happened, I was like, I need to make a change. I need to stop drinking.
That's when you started jazzercise again, right?
I started going back to jazzercise. And that was when I had a 2-year streak, zero cheating, nothing. 2 years. I was like, I'm clean. I'm good. I'm happy. We can make this work. And then that happened. Yeah. Then that happened. I got a tattoo that says chaos. It was chaos. And that was the beginning of the end. I think I talk about my relationship and how that was the beginning of the end. But that's when, I got remedicated again. And I decided that my life was worth more than being in an unhappy marriage and hating myself every single day for things I've done in the past. And I tell you what, I know they say, what's the saying about when you tell the truth?
The truth will set you free?
Yes, it does. The truth sets you free.
Do I need to look up this saying for you?
No, I truly believe the truth will set you free. And anytime like my ex and I were fighting, like, it's not like he ever caught me. I'm sure maybe he felt something. He never addressed it with me. Like, the only times we addressed it is because I told him. I was like, I feel guilty about this. I can't live with this. And he forgave me every single time, which was even more poisonous to my mental health because it just left me feeling in this awful dark hole.
Because you wanted to be punished, like you wanted him to like have a reaction.
The reason I was doing it is because I wanted him to leave me, because I did not have the courage to leave him. I couldn't do it. My 20-year-old self, I did not have the courage. So I tried to leave him once by moving out, came back. Tried to leave him once by overdosing on Benadryl. I lived. I lived.
Victoria!
I lived. And then, the beginning of 2024 was a very rough year for me, and I eventually just said, he's not gonna leave, so I'm gonna do it. It's time. And I'm so much better off for it. I am so much happier for it.
Clearly, you can see. I mean, I think I told you this. I feel like when I came to visit you last summer, I could even see it in Zeus and Mila, like your dogs. Like, I could even tell like they were not as anxious as they normally were when I would go visit you in Richmond. Like, I felt like all the dogs were like, because they could tell that you guys were super anxious and like things were just not okay. So like they were taking that in, and so they were super anxious and like lashing out. And I feel like, especially Zeus, I feel like he's a different dog. Like, he's so chill.
So good. He's so good. And getting him out of that environment, getting myself out of that environment was great for both of us. And I found something that's very triggering to me is when people raise their voice at me, because it's something that I went through in my childhood. Yeah. And if someone is yelling at you repeatedly or talking to you in a very aggressive tone, that does have a wear on a person.
Oh, absolutely. I know for me, when people start like raising their voices, because from my childhood, like just the constant like screaming and yelling and like very explosive reactions to everything, like I start to shut down. So like And I even notice it in myself, like when I start getting angry, I start to just completely shut down. Like I guess I can't like get a hold of my emotions to like, or like my brain can't figure out how to like talk about
It
it.
sends me into like a panic. I don't even know what to
Mm-hmm.
say. This got really sad really fast. Guys, I can promise you I am okay. I can promise you I am okay. I had a momentary lapse of like, I don't want to be here, and I took some Benadryl, and that was life. But I do want to be here.
Yes, 2024 to 2025, very different people. It's amazing how much.
It went from literally February to April, and it was my birthday and our 3-year wedding anniversary in April. And we went to Puerto Rico together, which is where we went after we got married. And I remember on that trip, like, we were what I would consider having a great time for us. There was no fighting. We were going on
Mm-hmm.
walks every day. We were going to the beach. We were going to nice restaurants. And even during that time, I was like, I don't want to be with this person.
Yeah.
And a week later, hooked up with my cheater boyfriend, literally a week to the day from my birthday, because my ex left me to go out with friends. So I invited cheater boyfriend over to my house. As soon as ex came back, I was like, yep, I had sex with him again, and I'm moving to Nashville.
Yeah, that all happened in like 24 hours, I
It
think.
all happened within 24 hours, and 20-year-old me couldn't do it. 30-year-old me is strong.
Hell
And then
yeah.
I went through my crazy sex hiatus. So if you listen to episode 4, I'm not like that anymore. I'm not like that anymore. I have a boyfriend who I absolutely love, and he's amazing in every way.
I mean, yeah, because you used sex as like your outlet, which I mean, I did the same thing after Adrian died. I went through like 2 months of like not wanting to be touched, and then I was like, fuck that, and went to like one of my peak hoe phases. I was like, I don't give a fuck who it is. Like, I just want to feel something, I guess.
Well, that was me. It was like, I definitely like, okay, hear me out. So after a night of heavy drinking,
Mm-hmm.
drugs, whatever, everyone knows what Sunday scaries are. Everyone knows what
Mm-hmm.
anxiety is. My anxiety method, I think it's in one of our posts, is hydroxyzine and masturbation and sleeping.
Yeah.
And just like masturbation with sex, it's feeling that high of the
Mm-hmm.
orgasm and feeling that serotonin that I'm lacking, that it really became addicting to me.
Mm-hmm.
To have orgasms, to have someone who desired me and wanted me, to the point I took it to the extreme. Like, I highly recommend you don't do it my way. Like, highly recommend.
For your own mental and physical health, please don't.
Please don't do this. Like, I was doing very dangerous things, just to feel something, and was being very reckless with my life, very reckless with my body, very unsafe with people I don't know. I will say I had to do that to get to where I am today, but I can assure you there are healthier methods. There are healthier methods than what I went through. So even though you might hear my stories and be like, oh, Vikki's such a slut, it's like, yeah, I was. And you know what? It got me through what I needed to at the time. And now I can look back on it and say, yep, I mean, that was a little crazy. Would I do it again with the right person who I love? Absolutely. But having mindless sex gets old.
Mm-hmm.
It gets old. It definitely served a place in my growth. The
I
girl could have gotten kidnapped multiple times. I'm like, the fact that I'm alive today is like a
I
miracle.
would no whenever I would see like your Instagram story of you like being out with like a drink or something, I would immediately start checking your location like every hour. Being like, has she made it home yet? Or I text you be like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It was a wild 6 months, but I am so glad to have it behind me and so glad to just be with one person. Which I don't think I've ever said ever once in my life. And if there's a man who loves me and gives me everything sexually, emotionally, that is enough for me. I hadn't found enough yet.
And now you have.
I know. Mr. Spreadsheet and I are Delulu. He was like, send
So
Grace what rings you
delusional.
want. I'm like, we're having babies. Like, the fact that I would, like, if anyone knows me, you know I'm anti-kid. You know I'm
Mm-hmm.
anti-kid. I go through phases of like, no, I'm not having a kid. And I remember I ran into this girl that I danced with on dance company at the airport. Gosh, this was right around the midst of me deciding, like, should I divorce this person, right?
Yeah.
I was going to Nashville and I ran into her and she was like, oh, like, do you want kids? And I was like, yeah, I want kids with the right person. And I don't think I realized at the time that what I said. And that is so, like, boggling to me now because, like, the person I'm with right now, like, if he wanted a kid tomorrow, I would 1,000% give him the most beautiful baby ever because he's a great person.
I fucking cannot with you. She probably gave you a look and you were probably like, why is she looking at me like this? Because then if you have a kid with the wrong person, like,
that was my fear.
You're stuck with that person for the rest of your life.
Like, I've read stuff about where guys are like, oh, she, like, no one wants to feel like they're your, like, boyfriend's mother. Like, that's
right.
It's so off-putting.
So unattractive.
It's so unattractive. I can't believe I got married after he threw up hamburger in the bed the night before we got married. Like, literally, he went out with all of his friends, got blackout drunk, showed up at like 4 a.m. We were supposed to go to the courthouse at 8 a.m. that Monday, throws up hamburger in the bed. I put him on the couch so he can sleep. I clean up all the vomit. And we go to the courthouse. He's still drunk. We had plans to go get a special brunch after we got married. He's too drunk to eat. He goes home, he passes out, and I went to work. That was my wedding day.
His friend was literally DDing him at 8 a.m. on a Monday.
Yeah, on the day of our wedding.
To his wedding.
I'm just like, what the fuck? Who marries someone after they throw up in the bed the night before because they're blackout drunk on a Sunday? Like, what the fuck was I thinking? I think we were still in the grief phase. That was still 2021.
100%.
And I would say 2020 and 2021 were our worst years. And those were the years I got engaged and married. Yeah. And then 2022 is when I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore between the grief, the lies, the cheating, the abuse. I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. And 2022 was a big turning year.
Yeah, because I remember towards like the end of 2020, I was just drinking all the time. I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, if I don't stop drinking or if I don't change my lifestyle habits, whatever, I was like, I'm going to drink myself to death or I'm going to end up killing myself. Like, something has to stop. So, like, the end of 2020 is when I rejoined the gym and I started going. And then finally, I'd say like halfway into 2021, I was like, I'd say like the beginning summer of 2021, I was like starting to feel better and stuff. And then, of course, that's when I met fucking what's his face. And then we started dating. And then
another car guy
that loved to fucking manipulate you.
Yeah. We say hindsight is 2020. I'm just going to say, don't make rash decisions in your grief. After Adrian died, you remember when I got that awful haircut? I was so blonde and my hair was so short. It was awful. Awful. I literally went to a Great Clips and cut like 8 inches off of my hair because I needed a change. And if you post a photo of my hair, I will literally murder you because I hate myself for like that decision. It took so long to grow out. It was so bad.
I mean, who hasn't had a bad haircut? But like, because Vikki hair at the time was like past her shoulders, and then she cut it like to the bottom of her ears. So like she literally cut off like 7 inches. And then you were wearing like a turtleneck when you sent me the picture. And I remember me and another girl
before and after on Instagram, and I was like, which is better? And people kept liking the before, and I was like, I have to delete this.
And I was like, well, maybe if you curl it or like, you know, wait.
Oh, it was so bad. There was like no recovering from that haircut. Yeah, grief makes you do wild things. Poor mental health means poor haircuts. I'm notorious for getting tattoos when I'm in times of crisis.
I would say in a mental health crisis. I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah, tattoos, nipple piercings. I've had my nipples pierced twice, and both times were in times of crisis.
Yeah, when I got my septum pierced, it was when I found out my ex-boyfriend had cheated on me for like the second or third time. And I was like, I'm going to go get a piercing then.
As you should, queen. As you should.
Hell yeah. Speaking
I'm
of
like,
that,
look at all my tattoos.
speaking of that ex-boyfriend though,
Mm-hmm.
one of my friends, because him and I obviously do not follow each other on social media, but one of my friends sent me.
Hey, excuse me, that's rude.
We're in the middle of recording Mila.
Get it
Anyways,
together.
one of my friends sent me a picture.
Do better.
Do better, Mila. Sent me a picture of him. He's on like vacation or whatever with his wife, girlfriend, fiance, I don't know, and their
Whatever,
kid.
who cares?
This man,
Does he look gross?
So fucking fat.
Okay,
like,
he's full figured. He's full figured. We don't say fat.
Sorry, he is very voluptuous now.
I would never body shame someone. As someone who is habitually body shamed, I would never ever do that to anyone, whether it's the same sex, different sex. No.
Well, I'm gonna body shame him because he cheated on me multiple times.
Okay, then you can body shame him.
3 years, and I think he's probably gained like 100 pounds. Because when I knew him, he was in the Marines and was fit, and like now,
that was your first problem, Marines. Military men. You had a problem.
I had a problem. I loved myself some fucking military man. Ugh. Disgusting.
Couldn't be me.
I had one military man tell me he loved me after 3 weeks of knowing me, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I didn't realize what love bombing was until it happened to me like 10 times in a row. And I was like, oh, this is what this is.
Oh, now I know what the TikTok girlies are talking about.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was part of this trend.
It's funny because love bombing never works on me because it gives me the ick immediately.
Oh, and no, I'm a romantic. I'm like, okay.
I'm the complete opposite. Mr. W tried to give me a compliment the other day, and I literally looked at him and I said, ew. And he was like,
no, don't do that. Don't do that. I literally...
No, I'm trying not to.
No, Mr. Spreadsheet tells me I'm beautiful every single day, and for once, he's the only guy I believe it when he says that.
No.
Like, I never took compliments either. Like, I never wanted affection from my significant other, probably because I was pulling away because I felt some type of way. But no, he's perfect, and he's everything, and I love him.
I know. I was never like a big cuddler, and I like told Mr. W that when we first started dating, and then I became obsessed with him, and all I want to do is fucking cuddle in bed. And he's like, do you remember? And I'm like, yes, I know. Every time we cuddle, he's like, remember when you said you hated to be touched and like didn't like cuddling? And now he's like, if I don't even like have a finger on you, you freak out. I'm like, I'm sorry that I like your touch.
Yeah, no, it's so nice. Just the comfort. I read something about how when you're in a very committed, loving relationship, you sleep so much better.
Yes, you no, yeah, I've read that before, like, because you're not in a flight or fight zone, so your body can like relax, so you feel more tired when you're with your significant other because you feel safe and secure.
Yeah. So I sleep all the time now.
No, literally, I always tell Mr. W, I'm like, you're the reason why I'm tired all the time because I feel safe and secure. And like and it's true, like when him and I are together, like I sleep so soundly through the night. So does he. He's like, I never nap. He's like, but when we're together, he's like, I nap so well. I sleep so well. I'm like, see, we were just meant to be.
Meant to be. I'm like, who would have thought March 1st of 2025, Vikki and Grace are both in loving, committed relationships and obsessed with their significant others to the point of delusion. Literally delusional.
The other day we were sitting down eating and I was just like cutting my food and I was like, so when we get married, and he's like, what? And I was like, blah, 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 and like just like went off, and he was like, okay babe, anything you want. And I was like, okay.
I'm not even gonna read you these messages.
I don't want to know. Keep your because Vikki and Spreadsheet Man are very lovey-dovey to each other, and like my love language is definitely like I like quality time and acts of service. Like that's how I want people to show me love. And Mr. W's is definitely words of affirmation, gift giving and stuff. But you two are definitely words of affirmation and physical touch. And I don't like PDA. Like Mr. W and I will hold hands in
We
public.
can't help it. We literally were like, we're going to gross our kids out because of how in love we are.
I mean, that's a good thing to like show your children like a loving relationship. But I'm like, keep it like, bring it down to like 50% when you're around me.
We want that intoxicating, can't keep your hands off each other love forever.
I mean, you should want that forever.
I know.
But just keep it to a minimum when you're around me because PDA makes me so uncomfortable.
He's so excited to meet you. He's so excited. So a month from now, Mr. Spreadsheet is meeting my family and my best friend Grace. So
yeah, what are they? I'm excited to meet him just to like see it together. And so that way I can like look at Sandy and be like, ugh, they're touching each other.
I was telling her that I'm bringing him and he's going to make her key lime pie and he's planning to bring her flowers.
Aww.
And she was like, I was sending her photos of us and she was like, this is serious. And I was like, yes, Mom, this is serious. I know that's hard to believe. And after my last relationship, my mom was like, you can't stop bringing men around. You have to stop bringing men around because we get attached and it's hard for us too. I'm like, oh, woe is me, Mom. I'm sorry my divorce is hard for you.
I'm so sorry that I just went through 7 years of hell.
I'm just like, I'm like, you didn't even like him. I'm like, why are we talking about this?
No, literally. I think it was like the last 2 years that they finally came around.
I know. And I'm just like, you guys have seen me more in the last like 6 to 8 months than anyone has seen for me in the last 6 to 8 years. It's like I fell off the face of the earth because I was living in his world.
I think you came to Blacksburg more at the end of last year than probably the 7 years you guys were together.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
So this is us having humor and coping inappropriately with our trauma. But we're supposed to be talking about mental health. We talked about my suicide attempt. Let's talk about your mental health and your therapy. Enough about me.
I'm sorry.
We're laughing through the tears.
Anyways, mental health and therapy go hand in hand. Vikki and I are really good at therapy. That is sarcasm if you can't tell. So the first time anytime I've had to go to therapy, I've never actually been to therapy, but my mom has tried to send me to therapy throughout the years. And the first time was in middle school when we first moved to Blacksburg. And
I was your therapy.
Yes, Vikki was my therapist because I did not want to move to Blacksburg. My brother was deployed at the time. I was an angsty teen. Like a lot was just going on and I was just not in a good place. And I refused to make any friends. I think I've like briefly talked about this story. And my mom got very, very concerned because I literally would cry myself to sleep every single night when we first moved to Blacksburg. And so then my mom went to the middle school therapist and was like,
guidance counselor.
She was like, you guys need to do something because I think she's going to try and kill herself. So they like pulled out like 5 girls in our grade and were like, you need to be friends with this girl. And then, I mean, you guys were not very tactful about it because like randomly all of a sudden one day, all 5 of them were like, hey, let's be friends. And I was like,
what the fuck?
I was like, okay.
Yeah. You ended up with me. Basically, the guidance counselor was like, go be friends with Vikki. And I mean, I was the bubbly fun girl. I still am.
And I was the angsty girl.
And we became best friends. The end.
Exactly. Black cat golden retriever strikes again.
And then Adrian became a part of our group.
Yes, and then we just tucked her in there.
Yeah. Tucked her in the middle. Beep, beep.
The other time my mom tried to send me to therapy was, I think it was freshman or sophomore year of college. My parents were like going through a very rough time in their marriage. And some things came out. And it just like fucking fucked the entire family basically. And I took it really hard because I'm really close with both my parents. And she was like, you need to go to therapy. You need to talk to someone that isn't like me or dad. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, fine. So the first time or the first one I had scheduled, I think it had snowed, so I was like, oh, I can't come, roads are bad.
Tough. Shucks, what an inconvenience.
Literally, the second time, I think I had called like 5 minutes before and was like, oh, I'm sick, I can't come. And then
I have the black lung paw.
literally, and then the third time, I just didn't show up, didn't call, nothing. And then they called my mom, and they were like, she is no longer accepted at this practice. Like, she cannot come here anymore.
So here you are, you're ghosting your therapist, and I'm getting ghosted by my therapist.
Literally.
I had 3 therapists that ghosted me. The first one I saw after Milo died, my first dog. And there had just been like a murder at a property I was overseeing. And yeah, I was like literally like on FaceTime with my mom. She's like putting down my dog, and I'm like talking to the police, being like, yeah, there's a murder at the property. That was a low. That was a very big low for me. He helped me get through the death of my dog. And I don't know about you guys. Back then, I was very like, I don't want anyone to know I have a mental health problem.
Oh, so, girl, same.
I was like, I don't want to go to an office where anyone knows me. I don't want to be seen. So I was like, this random guy has a house and he does therapy. So I was at this random dude's house.
That seems unsafe.
I mean, do you know me?
As soon as I said that, I was like, she's done this before. She's a pro at it.
Well, literally, I went there a couple times. One time he was late. The next time he was like, oh, our appointment's next week. And the third time that I went there and he didn't show up, he never responded to me. And I was like, maybe this was like a hoax, and he thought like maybe it was like a rapey thing. Like it was going to be like,
oh, yeah. Where they like lure you to a spot so that way they can take advantage of you.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, he ghosted me. And I had 2 other therapists ghost me. I'm like, that's not very therapeutic. I'm like, isn't this your job to like literally talk to me and love me no matter what?
Like, I've heard of therapists like firing people. Like, one of my older sisters, she's been fired by every single therapist she's been to. So, like, I've heard of that, but I've never heard of a therapist ghosting a client, because I feel like that can send people into like a mental health crisis.
Right. I'm like, do you not care about mental health? After the incident, where you were throwing up on the plane the entire ride home, and I got to my apartment in Nashville. I was going to go to Jazzercise, and I didn't have the mental strength to go and take a Jazzercise class. And I laid in bed crying on and off between talking to my mom. That was like one of the first times I really explained to my mom like how bad my mental health was, which my parents are doing a lot better with it now. At the time, it was very surprising to them because I kept all of my issues a secret for so long. Did you ever self-harm, or was that just a me thing?
No, because like for me, whenever I am like in a crisis, I don't like outwardly do things. I like inwardly do things. I basically just shut down and turn into a zombie. I just don't do anything. Like back last year, there was basically the month of September, I was just having a really bad depressive rot episode. And Mr. W was like, what is wrong with you? Like, I don't understand. You're not your normal self. And I was like, sometimes this is just part of being with me. This is part of my mental health. Like,
there's going to be days I disconnect, that I'm just not talking to you all the time. And I try to be very cognizant of it, because I will say dating someone who has mental health can be taxing on that. Like mental health problems can be really taxing on that other person. And it's something I recognize, and something in my past relationship that I've never wanted to feel like a burden.
Yeah. Except it lasted like 3 weeks. And the only reason why I came out of it was because of my brother's wedding. And I was like, okay, fuck, I have to get out of bed. I need to go get my spray tan. I need to pack. I need to do all of these things to get ready for this wedding, which, I mean, luckily the wedding was coming up. So like definitely helped me out of that depressive raw episode. And I haven't had one since September, which is good. So.
Yeah, that's good. I did one of those awful things where if you're a girl, I know you do this, you type notes in your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my therapy focus. This was February of 2022. I wrote some things that I wanted to like talk to my therapist about.
Yeah.
And I read this to myself the other day and I was just like, this is absurd. So I'm going to read it for you guys. I'm going to be very vulnerable in this moment. Grace has never heard this before.
Oh, God.
So one of the things that I was like, why am I so upset with my husband when he goes out without me often? I'm like, that's a me issue. That's a me issue, clearly. He accuses me of being an alcoholic, but isn't recognizing it for himself.
That motherfucker would literally go out on a random Tuesday till 3 a.m.
Yeah. He vacations and spends lots of time apart with me. I was like, why am I sad? And I'm like reading these statements and I'm like, these are good reasons to be sad.
Yes, you were basically in a lonely marriage.
I was like, needing more quality time. Impulsive decisions and being reckless. My anxiety and how not hearing from him makes me feel. It was, I'm always in the moment. I can't text you because I'm with my friends. And I'm like, but you're on your phone nonstop when you're with me.
Literally. Also, it takes 10 seconds to send a text message.
Next one, choosing time with friends over me. Communicating where he's at and when he will be home. If you are married to someone and your person will not tell you, like, does not communicate. He was notorious for being like, I'll be home in 30 minutes. Doesn't come home until like 5 a.m. The next line, saying things like I'll be home at 10 p.m. and not showing up until 3 a.m. No communication when he's on the way.
And then he would drive home drunk.
Yes. And I was like, him not understanding anxiety. And I was like, different goals and his feeling more important than mine. These were things I was like, I need to talk to my therapist about why I'm not okay with these things.
No, you guys needed a marriage therapist for that shit.
Like, I literally looked back on this because I was like, let me torture myself a little bit. And when I read this list back to myself, I was like, it is so absurd that I am going to therapy to try to correct these things and be okay with these things in my marriage. Like, I was like, I'm going to settle for this. This is my life. I need to go to therapy so that he can live this life that I just read out to all of you.
Which is fucking batshit, because I think if Mr. W were to do any of those things, the not answering you for hours on end and you not knowing where he is, that shit would fucking piss me off.
I had his location and stuff, and there would be times I would message his friends, and the anxiety of someone being like, I'll be home in 30 minutes. I mean, if you're with someone you really care about, you want to know that they're home safe, especially if they've been out drinking, and waking up at 5 a.m. to not having your husband in bed with you is an awful feeling, awful feeling. There were times I lost sleep before going to work because I was so stressed out about what he was doing on a weekday. And honestly, it was probably, I mean, he was doing this before anything that I had done.
Yeah.
And
he never took accountability for it. It never even like so much as like, I'm so sorry I stressed you out. It was always, well, I was in the moment, babe. Like, you can understand that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was in the moment fucking other guys because you were never around. Even when I was fucking other guys, I had the decency to text you when I would be home. So self-harm. I used to... Communication is very important in a marriage. Communication is very important in a marriage.
In a relationship in general, it's very important.
No, but I used to like cut myself like with a kitchen knife. So especially when I was having panic attacks, and this is something I talked to like the last therapist I had in Richmond before I moved. My self-harm was an effort to break the panic attack because I could not get it to stop.
You needed to like ground yourself.
I was having anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and in an effort to ground myself, which they said a lot of people self-harm, and they taught me other ways. They were like, dig your fingernails into your hands, like clench your fists, take your shoes off and touch the ground. So in an effort to break my panic attacks, I used to cut myself. And I also used to beat myself with my tennis racket, like hit myself in the shins repetitively.
It's like, it's not funny. It's like,
it's not funny, but I mean, it helped. It helped. And it was an effort to like snap me out of it. Like I'm trying to, like, it's not because I want to hurt myself. It's like I need to put the focus on pain or somewhere else to distract me from what is going on right now.
Well, no wonder you had bruises all over your body all the time.
I know. Well, they were like, eat sour candy, clench your fist. And I was like, no, I'm just going to beat my shins with a tennis racket.
You fucking psycho. God. Well, thank you for being vulnerable with me.
I'm being so vulnerable. Because it's about mental health. And people don't talk about it.
Well, people definitely talk about like, oh, I'm medicated, and then they laugh and giggle like we've been doing, but they don't like actually get into the nitty gritty of being like, yes, I've tried to kill myself, or yes, I've self-harmed, or, like that type of stuff. It's not
something people talk about, which I don't care if people know. I'm better now.
You've come out on the other side, and it shows people that like those dark times don't last.
Yeah.
Like, you can get through it. It's gonna suck, and it's so fucking hard. And
like, looking back on it now, I'm like, it wasn't that serious. But at the time, I was like, let me just cut my arm off.
Jesus.
Trying to think what else is mental healthy. Have you ever been sexually assaulted, or was that just me?
I mean, like, I've definitely had guys touch me when I have not wanted them to, like, rubbed on my vagina and stuff like that.
I said this to my therapist, and she was like, that's assault.
I know. As soon as you said, I was like, I already know it is.
I already know it is. I will talk about one story, though. So, obviously, you remember when I met my ex-husband. We moved in together. There was a night we went out with a bunch of his friends, and one of the friends' brothers was out with us. I was very drunk. I look back on photos, and I see this person, like, touching me inappropriately in photos. I don't know if I've ever told you this story.
Is this the couch story? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You've told me it. I think last year you told me it for the first time.
Yeah. Anyway, like, I passed out drunk. My ex left with friends to go get McDonald's. I woke up to someone. Can you say eating out? Orally pleasuring me.
I wouldn't say pleasure. They took advantage of you while you were...
Took advantage of me while I was asleep. And I woke up, and two friends walked in. I remember I was pulling up my pants, like, what the fuck is happening? Like, freaking out. Neither of those friends said anything.
Of course not. Pussies.
About it. He was my boyfriend at the time. My ex-husband walked in. No one knew. We just never talked about it. And to me, that was a downfall in our relationship. And I finally told him about it years later, and how much, like, keeping that secret fucked up my mental health. Because I remember at the time I was like, I just quit my job. I just moved to Richmond. I just moved in with this person. And I love this person. And Chris is like, he didn't love him. And I remember feeling like it would never work out with me and him because of what I had done.
Yeah. But you didn't do anything being wrong. Yeah.
But 22-year-old me was like, oh yeah, this is 1,000% my fault. Like,
what was his reaction to it? Nonchalant?
No, I mean, he's like, I wish you would have told me. I would have believed you. And I was like, we had known each other for 3 months. Like, how do you tell someone that you moved in with too fast, that one of your friend's brothers sexually assaulted you, and that person walked in and saw it and didn't tell you? Like, I was more worried about them, like, telling him because I didn't want it to hurt him.
Yeah.
To the point that I let it hurt myself. Like, that person followed me on LinkedIn. He was sending me messages afterwards. It was very, very creepy. And when I look back on the drunk photos and see where his hands are, like, even before I knew it was happening, I'm just like, this is insane.
Men are so fucking disgusting and pigs.
So the only thing that saved me during that time, because shortly after, that's when Milo got diagnosed with cancer. Because I was already self-sabotaging it. But then my dog got cancer, and that's the reason why we stayed together, because I had called my mom and she had told him, like, you need to look out for her. Like, she's not in a good headspace. Like, we had just put down my family dog, and then I found out Milo had cancer. And we always say that the dog saved our relationship at the time. Let me just tell you something, people. 4 months into a relationship, if you're working too hard and fighting and breaking up nonstop, that is not the person you marry. Yeah. 20-year-old me didn't know that. I was like, this is passion. We are passion. It shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be hard with the person you love.
Right. I mean, like, it's not going to be easy. Like, there are going to be times where it is difficult.
Right.
That's literally just a relationship. But
Right.
you shouldn't be constantly yelling and fighting and being like, why is this so hard? Why am I crying? Why am I so upset? Like, this person should be loving me, and I should be happy with this person, not anxious when they come home from work, or when I have to go home from work, or oh, I haven't heard from them in 3 hours. Like, what's going on?
Right. And it's so different with Mr. Spreadsheet. And I tell him I try not to compare. And I'm like, anytime I compare, it's because you're so much better. It's because you're so much more of a man, and the way you care for me and the way you communicate with me is something I've never had.
Yep.
I've literally never had it. And it's scary, but I'm head over heels for him, because he is the most genuine, like, honest, communicative person that I've ever met.
Yeah. Mr. W has, like, said to me a few times, he's like, I just, like, don't understand, like, how you were single when we met. You are, like, great, and you're fun, and you're not dramatic. And he's like, I mean, yeah, you have your moments, but you're not, like, a psychopath and, like, all this stuff. And I'm like,
qualifications.
Well, thank you.
To be my girlfriend, you must not be a psychopath. I'm like, if that's the standard.
But I was like, because I've been in these relationships where, like, I'm not a priority. I'm always on the back burner. They don't give a fuck about my well-being or what I'm doing, or when I do communicate my feelings, I'm immediately invalidated and told that I'm crazy. And then I'm, like, gaslit into being like, oh, should I feel this way about this?
Right.
And then later on, they're like, oh, actually, yeah, I was telling you were crazy because it was true. Sick.
I love that.
It's great.
I remember this Instagram was telling me things. I don't know about y'all, but my Instagram knows me like no one better. It puts things
It's because they listen to you.
I know they listen, but I'm like, thank you for listening, because sometimes there's some stuff that's really meaningful on there. But I was scrolling through my Instagram, and it was like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but babe, he's not your soulmate if he's the person that makes you cry the most.
True.
And yes, that resonated with me. That resonated with me so much that it shouldn't be this hard. So something that was very eye-opening to me is I didn't have mental health problems until that marriage. Even when I was getting hit by my last boyfriend, I didn't have mental health problems to the level that I had in that marriage. And like, I'm not a sad person. Everyone knows I'm not a sad person. And when I saw how sad I was
all the time,
I was just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, because I remember, I feel like you tried to control it in other ways, and that's when you gained a little bit of weight, because you were trying to control it in the way that because you feel like you have to control something, and like, eating is a way to control something, working out is a way to control something.
So fat, and I had the short hair, and it was so bad.
Cutting your hair is a way to control something. Dyeing your hair is a way to control something. Like,
sex is a form of control.
And I think a lot of people use sex as like a way to control other people, A, and then B, as a way to like cope through whatever they're going through. I mean,
oh yeah, that's 1,000% what it is. It's a coping mechanism.
So anyways, to wrap this up, mental health is very messy. Therapy can get weird, and medication comes with side effects like not being able to have an orgasm. But at the end of the day, self-care, whether that's therapy, meds, laughing at everything with your best friend, it's not something to be ashamed of, and you shouldn't be ashamed of it.
No, and I'm not ashamed of it. If you're struggling, just know you're not alone, and whatever you need to do to get through it, that's valid. It is so valid. Also, please, for the love of God, let's start being honest about SSRI struggles so we can all suffer less. I just want everyone to know I'm still on SSRIs. My orgasm came back. There was like a month or two where I was like, I'm not going to make it. Guess what? It comes back, especially when you're with the right person. It comes back.
Absolutely. Amen. And if you have a ridiculous therapy story, like you ghosting your therapist, or your therapist ghosting you, or your therapist firing you, or a SSRI horror story, like I know one of my friends was on Lexapro for a while and she turned into a fucking batshit crazy person. So DM us and let us know, because we would love to hear them.
We would love to hear about it. Yes, your secret's safe with us and the entire internet. But we will never tell names. There will never be names. The only names, I mean, I already said this in the first episode. It's like you're always going to know when it's me, because I can't lie, because if I do, I have anxiety, and that is why I am medicated.
She even has anxiety to the entire internet. Yeah. Strangers who don't know who she is.
Yeah, so don't cancel us.
Please. And happy early St. Patrick's Day. We hope you guys have a great holiday. And Illy.
Illy.
Bye.